Hello, hello. My name is Joshua Sheffield, and welcome back to the National Cast. This time being episode 9. So, it's been a minute, obviously. I haven't uploaded in I haven't recorded in like a month or two. Wow, okay. Um, but I won't delve too much into this, but the thing, recently, I have had to take a break from my role as a leader of the National League of America due to mainly being stretched thin, school, and my own woes. And so yeah, but I have come back into the limelight. Um, Not only that, but I have recently did a mass removal of people that were inactive that did nothing, basically just inflated membership numbers for that sort. And yeah, I've been trying to get that up and trying to turn the still working on turning the National League into a proper, organization, a coherent movement. But yeah, we're still working on that. We're still doing the best we can. We will get it done though, rest assured. Um, but yeah, and that also involved cutting the podcast, like pausing it until further notice, which it was paused. Uh, but yeah, but we're back. Thankfully, this will be decided to record this as of Friday, 7:02 p.m. But after this episode, we'll go back to our regular Saturday airing, or possibly move it back to Friday. Depends. Um. So, anyways, without all the lore drop, we have a new speaker as we ever started the podcast. His name is Integrity. I want you to introduce yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just for the sake of simplicity, don't ever. This is just a joke, but don't refer to me by my username just because I'm already taken like not seriously at all with it. But you can just
Okay.
call me Connor. It's cool.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't think I actually told you that, so you're cool. But yeah, thank you for having me. I don't really.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little out of words on what exactly I should say to introduce myself. So.
Yeah, I think we all are. But yeah, so without a doubt, we're gonna get head on to news, and man, has it been a while. Oof, we wars and all that. So on
Oh
to
yeah,
our
no shit.
first topic of the news, which has been going on quite a while, is the situation happening in Gaza. For those who are out of the loop or frankly live under a rock and are practically cavemen, um, there has been a there has been a conflict ongoing in Gaza between Hamas and the state of Israel. And this situation, it goes back years. It goes back to 1948 actually. And the situation has recently sparked up again. It's got missile strikes, hostages, and all that. Overall, it's a war that is it's a well, I wouldn't call it a war, but it's a situation that is very brutal and sort of breaking on the line of savagery.
Well, I wouldn't really consider it like something that has sprung up again because this has pretty much just been nonstop, one-sided violence until the Arabs did something back. Obviously, we should go out of our way to condemn the actions of Hamas, like we shouldn't condone anything. Like obviously, don't be fucking stupid. Don't be the left that pretty much just condones Hamas for the sake that they're not Israel. Because to be honest, they're both animals. But yeah, no, this is for the entirety since 1948. You know, when Israel was established, like 700,000 Palestinians were like displaced. Um, Israel since then has been nothing more than a an apartheid state where 4 million Arabs can't vote. It's just an ethno state. So for the most part, I think we should really go out of our way to point out that while Hamas isn't the good guy, their invasion of Israel was not fucking unprovoked, and nobody should be surprised that this happened. Like you reap what you sow. Considering they've been killing Palestinian kids, kicking people out of their homes, bombing the shit out of people. Not doubting the Palestinians did it, but still.
Yeah,
Sorry,
this
it's a
is
bit of a tangent.
it's all right. Yep. Overall, this situation has just been an escalation of escalations. You have Israel doing stuff that the actions of Israel, right, will only further radicalize the people in Gaza. It will only further radicalize Palestinians. You don't fight, you don't just fight radicals by using the same tactics radicals use. And for context, I'm not calling all Palestinians radicals, just like I'm not calling all Jewish people in Israel ethno-nationalists, okay? Because it's more than that. It's a very complicated situation that is overall just a mess. Um, but yeah, you don't fight. It just, this way that Israel has of fighting, just discriminately killing people, just disregarding children and civilians in the process, even cutting off, essential needs and services, it will just only further radicalize the Palestinian people and only make the Palestinian people support Hamas.
Well, I mean, for the most part, from any research that I've done, um, Palestinian feelings towards Hamas has been, at best indifferent. Even in Gaza, Hamas isn't particularly popular, which is, generally why we should always make the distinction that Hamas isn't Palestine. They're kind of just their own thing. So you can stand with Palestine while also being anti-Hamas. These kinds of opinions can coexist. Um, but yeah, from what I know, Hamas hasn't really been popular for a while now. And some even believe that Hamas kind of gives them a bad name because
It definitely does, man. I'm gonna be honest. You're right on that one.
because if when you think of and this isn't like an opinion, but I'm saying like when you think of Arabs, you immediately think of like terrorist people blowing people up, and who best represents that but Hamas. So if you want to think of who completely just ruins the image of the Palestinian people, it is Hamas. Um, I've satirically stated that I would root for Hamas out of spite, simply because I don't like Israel. Um, Simply because like Hamas, the only reason it exists is it's a result of what Israel did. For the same reason that the whole reason the Taliban exists is because of what the U.S. has done. Um, these groups, like, yeah, they're terrible, but they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us being terrible people.
I also want to point out that Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, has said in the past that in order to stop Palestine, you need to support Hamas. So Netanyahu, well, this is regarding his opinion. He has stated on record from multiple sources he that he actively supports Hamas out of spite of Palestine, and said something along the lines of, "If you want to stop Palestine, support Hamas." Which, I mean, like, first of all, first of all, if you wanted to stop Palestine, like, wouldn't Hamas just be seen as with Palestine? Wouldn't you want to paint them as that? So not only has, you know, Palestine, I mean, not Hamas been an effect of Israel, has been a reaction to Israel's decisions and their methods used in Gaza, but Netanyahu has actively supported, you know, has actively let the situation and Hamas to run rampant, has given them the edge that they need.
Um, yeah, and I mean, like, obviously he's right to an extent. Like, you have to consider that if there's anything that gives Palestine the worst name, it's a terrorist group that claims to represent Arabs. But I mean, like, aside from the fact that Hamas isn't popular, you're only going to get more Hamas. And by I mean Hamas, I mean like you're only going to get more terror groups the longer you displace these people. The longer you bomb them, the longer the U.S. chooses to overthrow the governments and impose liberal values upon these countries. The longer it tries to basically turn the Middle East into little more than another Europe, you're only going to get more terror groups. You're only going to get more groups that would rather die than, you know, well, live under some form of Western hegemony. You know, if you've ever seen, what if you have any understanding on how dangerous Western ideology is, especially how harmful it is to Eastern societies, you'd sympathize with why old men strap bombs to themselves and would rather blow themselves up than be subjected to it. Because when you displace this many people, you have an entire population of people who have nothing to lose. Um, and thank God for possibly Russia being the only people who aren't absolutely, dragging their knuckles on the ground. This wouldn't happen if Palestine was just a state, was just a nation state. Considering that Israel pretty much is the reason that it's being invaded, it has no right to defend itself either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any person who wants to, you can say Hamas is bad, but I don't think Israel has any right to defend itself at this point. None of this would have happened had they just given Palestine a state, or
Yeah.
better yet, not displaced them to begin with.
Yep. And Israel is only looking to make the situation worse. Now, mind you, for the context, Netanyahu, when he was elected, or in his previous election, he has actually allowed more fascist groups in Israel to take power. And these fascist parties are more along the lines of nationalist and more so Zionist and
They're kind of like the Lehi, the Stern Gang.
yeah,
I think I mispronounced Lehi, but that's pretty
Lehigh.
much
I think
it.
that's how I pronounce it. I'm not sure if anybody knows about that. And to be fair,
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know a lot.
generally when people make fun of people who say, like Zionist Nazis, you'll be surprised how like the Lehigh actually ended up being like an official like military arm of Israel when it was founded. Um, and how popular they were. So, Zionist Nazis actually doesn't sound too, inaccurate, especially when you consider, what the Lehigh wanted to do, like expand Israel's borders and their very, very questionable views of the Arab population.
Yeah. But like because of Netanyahu's actions and the co-opting of fascist parties within Israel, there has they have cut off water, electricity, blockaded exit points when they were telling people in Gaza to leave, to evacuate. Then then Israeli government officials have have gone on camera to the press in the news, and some have stated that they want to publicly and on videos, they want to effectively commit what equates to a genocide in Gaza. They have killed a vast amount of people, mostly kids and civilians, in Gaza. There has been an Israeli spokesperson that got mad when I think this is from what I heard, right? That has gotten mad when somebody tried to empathize with the Palestinian people in Gaza. And not only has these actions only turned public support against Israel, because this is in all honesty, this is quite the not the way you want to do press, right? But several nations and many people, like thousands, possibly like what, close to millions of people, are showing support for Palestine. Multiple governments are increasingly going against Israel and Netanyahu specifically has been trouble to work with for Western leaders, which constantly funnel money and enable and perpetrate these acts of massacres and war crimes.
Sorry, I completely forgot what I was about to say. Um, but yeah, no, it's only a matter of time before, Israel is eventually pretty much Western powers will give up on it. Because I mean, like, if you want to think about the United States, like, people are becoming less and less sympathetic to Israel. I mean, there was one law which I believe wanted to ban Jews from, converting to Christianity, or there was instances of Jews, spitting on Christians during their pilgrimage, which they got arrested. And the overwhelming fact that like we've been giving them money, and all they seem to do is drag us into wars. Say what you want about the Arab population, but I don't think Palestine has ever asked me for money. uh, Palestine doesn't drag me into war, and it's overwhelmingly Israel that it's just Israel and Ukraine fighting over my money, and I know damn well that they would not do anything for us if we were put in that position, if we were put in their position at the very least. But I do want to expand. I do. I did a lot of writing on this, and I know it sounds like old bones, but the Lehigh, like, you know, literal Jewish fascists, have so much more to it than a lot of people give them credit to. like one of their former leaders ended up becoming the literal president of Israel. Pretty much a lot of the Lehigh like paramilitaries, which massacred Arab groups, ended up being like given amnesty. Um, and they advocate like a lot of like ridiculous irredentist expansionism, which advocated the expulsion of Arab groups, and sometimes even they're like physical, like killing them. So if you really want to understand the current modern Israeli ideology, it's based off early fascist groups. Because if you really want to think about it, the modern Israel is a settler colonial state, and as ironic as it may sound, they're Nazis.
Yeah. Now I do want to make the distinction that there are Jewish people that do not look kindly to the state of Israel's methods, and that not all Jewish people support. Not all Jewish people are are
Yeah,
Nazis or
obviously.
fascists. You know,
Yeah, separate anti-Zionism from anti-Semitism. I agree. We should make that distinction that just because I am, ripping on Israel does not particularly
does
mean we
not
should.
mean that we are Hitler.
Um, which that is one thing that Israel likes to hide behind. A lot of Republican leaders, in particular, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, are pretty much not famous, but they pretty much came up with the idea of kind of associating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And so you can't even critique Israel because they hide under the pretty much a mask. Like you can't make fun of them. You can't call them out for settler colonialism. You can't do.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing is that mask slowly slipping. I mean, not a
It's
huge ton, but like I'm starting to, especially with people on the internet and whatnot, people
because
are slowly beginning to get tired of that charade.
and I'm not equating current Israeli treatment of Arabs to the Holocaust because that is absurd. That's ridiculous. But I am saying like, how absurd is it that you use the Holocaust as a excuse to have your own nation state, and so therefore your only like response is to displace everybody in it, um, basically create an apartheid state. Like it's so odd that you understood 6 years of nonstop suffering and genocide only to enact it on other people the second you get your own country. One argument, which do you mind if I go on a little tangent for a second?
Yeah, sure, as long as you don't get a little too
Don't worry.
spicy.
No, 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 no. It's not worth that. It's mostly about like land rights, but specifically Israel likes to claim that it has a right to the area of, Israel. But let's be honest. If you want to talk about who was there first, yeah, we could make some argument that Hebrews were there first, but that's not really a legitimate way of how land is claimed. Um, in that case, France is going to have to give its land back to the Gauls, and we're going to have to start talking to the Native Americans about giving their shit back. That's obviously just not possible. So we're going to have to think about maybe who was there longer. The Arabs, the Muslims, they were there significantly longer. And if you really want to think about it, the Muslims treated them significantly better than the Jews have treated the Muslims. Throughout the entirety of the history of the Ottoman Empire, they, just aside from paying a special tax, Jews were tolerated, allowed autonomy. They weren't killed, and they generally were left alone. Even before the Ottoman Empire, Muslims were generally pretty tolerant rulers, something that is contrasted with what they are now. Um, so the fact that throughout the like centuries of Muslim and Arab rule of the Arab area, of Jews, it's so weird that the second they get a state, they immediately treat the Arabs or Muslims terribly. I don't like to use Arab and Muslim interchangeably because that's incorrect. I just always, you understand. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that if you want to think of who's more legitimate, think of who's been there longer and who's definitely been more of a kinder, more benevolent ruler of the area. But that's all.
Yeah. Actually, I'm reading up on the Ottoman Empire's treatment of Jews. It turns out they were actually made autonomous on the base of religion. So they were
Yeah,
basically allowed to self-govern themselves to an
The Ottomans are
extent.
not given enough credit for how like benevolent they were to a lot of ethnic groups, aside from the Janissaries. But
Yeah, the Janissaries were like the Ottoman secret police.
well, no, it was just really fucked up how they were composed. The Janissaries were basically made up of basically kidnapped Christian boys who they brainwashed and indoctrinated, and they created like the main army out of. I think that's possibly one of the more brutal things. But other than that, like they were pretty cool to their minority groups, at least for the 17th and 18th century. Okay, never mind, not the 18th century. Hold on, ignore the Armenian genocide.
Oh man, that is not a good thing to say.
Okay, that's not what I meant. I meant like they were pretty cool up until then. I'm not justifying that. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying like I immediately fucked up when it came to the year, and I just immediately had to just up and say like just ignore you know, Committee of Union in Progress, Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, the Ottomans though did have their fair share of skeletons.
Yeah,
The
my bad.
the Turkish Republic continues to deny the Armenian genocide.
But and another thing about that, speaking of Turks, Azerbaijan has recently pretty much ethnically cleansed the area of Nagorno Karabakh, and basically, kicking out 120,000 Christian Armenians from Nagorno Karabakh. You want to know who supplied Azerbaijan during the war? It was
Turkey.
Israel. No, it
Oh,
was Israel. But yeah, Turkey did it too, but specifically Israel backed Azerbaijan in that war. So, partially, I can definitely blame Israel for the fact that 120,000 Armenians are now displaced from their homes.
mhm.
I've been talking way too much, though. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Uh, what I have to say, man, is like Israel is just being a little bit of a dick, and so is Hamas too. I mean, let's not forget Hamas did kidnap hostages and beat and kill people.
Fair enough.
So yeah, but I think we stayed on this topic too long. I would like to talk some more, but
That's cool. We can talk about other things.
yeah. So yeah, what about hold on. It's been a while since I've been on about this, but hmm, if you forgot, well you won't forget now. The Ukraine war is still ongoing. This is like it's what? It's almost its first year. Day 607. This war has been going on in for 20 months.
Damn.
It's basically become a war of attrition as both sides really haven't been able to make progress.
Yeah, no, generally Ukraine did a counteroffensive and it didn't really go well. In fact, there was complaints that, despite the fact that Ukraine was given NATO training, a lot of them said, if they followed NATO like instructions to the letter, they would have died. And so a lot of Ukrainian soldiers ended up ditching NATO training just entirely. A lot of the equipment, like Leopard tanks, have kind of been destroyed, and they've been preserving them the best they can. But other than that, the counteroffensive that everybody was waiting for ended up being a massive fucking blunder. Now Russia is doing a counteroffensive of its own, which, we have yet to see results for.
Yeah.
Which,
It's been so far, it's just. I mean, we've seen basically Putin hasn't been able to make progress. So has Zelensky. I mean, I just see I some countries have been fed up with Ukraine.
Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary, I believe.
Yeah, and there have also been accidents. This war, it may either turn out to be another Afghanistan or just a war where no one wins, really. Where the outcome
Well,
is just a brutal stalemate.
I don't know. I look, hopefully, obviously, I am biased, but I don't think it'll end in stalemate or another Afghanistan because Russia has done a pretty good job of directing Western attention. Like, there's a lot of evidence that the Wagner Group has been backing Hamas. The Wagner Group has, been overthrowing governments, et cetera, et cetera. But Russia has done a pretty damn good job at, directing Western interest elsewhere. Um, and also, people really underestimate Russia's ability to adapt. Like, let's be honest. Like, even I can admit that Russia, during the start of the war, pretty much made every mistake that could have gone wrong. Even replacing really competent generals. But as of now, Ukraine is only losing more and more people, with the millions of people who are leaving, the thousands of people who are dying, the declining birth rate, and just generally the entirety of the West becoming more and more fatigued. It's only a matter of time before Ukraine just gives up.
Yeah, but all I'm seeing for now is just like a sort of a bogged down war of attrition.
Because
Eventually, someone's got one of the two are gonna give in. All it takes is time, and that's what's valuable.
sorry, I was reading this thing and I didn't mean to mumble out loud. Um, but yeah, primarily like virtually everything the West has done to try to destabilize Russia hasn't even worked. The sanctions didn't work. It got to the point where like Putin even like after a while just said, "Oh well, okay, we're ready for some more sanctions now." Kind of to fuck with us. Like obviously
yeah.
the sanctions aren't working, uh,
I
which I think
mean,
that's
it
funny.
did work for a little bit.
We thought it was, and we thought
It,
that
it
they're
there was one point where if you compared the ruble, the value of the ruble to Robux, Robux was more valuable than the ruble at
well,
one point.
touche. But yeah, Russia did manage to save the ruble by instead of backing, use it's kind of like the gold standard. They didn't really bring back the gold standard, but they tied the ruble to gold, kind of bringing back the gold standard, which actually managed to save it. which is another thing that BRICS is trying to do, which is bring back the gold standard. No more
I
money
think the
backed by
U.S. should
nothing.
bring back the gold standard too.
I don't know how I would feel about the idea of bringing back a gold standard because inflation sucks, but deflation is objectively worse.
Yeah, I just think that the way things are going economically, it's just the a economy where the value of the dollar is based on markets just seems like a big, you know, it just seems to be, on paper, it sounds whack.
I get that, and I don't, I'm not going to completely disregard the argument for the gold standard. Like, for example, like what Russia has been doing, like it bears some results. I just think, like in modern economies, we do a thing called what's called. I have completely forgot what the fuck I was supposed to say, but we spend way no deficit spending. We spend more than we actually have. Gold is naturally it's a rare resource. So having economies that that have transactions of trillions of dollars, where we have to pretty much fund like millions of projects at a time, I just don't think it's feasible trying to use some like rare resource as a way of backing our thing. And obviously this becomes a problem with things like deflation, because at least inflation has some degree of benefits, because with inflation it benefits people like debtors, um, and also it's something that can be controllable. And as much as people may hate printing money, devaluing the currency does work, obviously when used not monkey levels. So anybody who generally like still advocates bringing back the gold standard, um, you're just not mature. And it may work short term for Russia, but I'm definitely going to see them regret it later.
Yeah, our current way of spending and our current economic decisions really is not sustainable if you're looking at it long term.
Yeah,
So
I do
like
agree with
it's
that.
very obvious that there needs to be a change to the way we, you know, do economics. Well, not more so in all of economics, but just how we use our economy for things. More so
Fair enough.
spending and whatnot.
That's pretty reasonable. Um, I mean, I did make the argument that like obviously money backed by nothing sounds bad, and I kind of want to backtrack on that. That you know we should obviously the statement that we need to change the way we do our economy is possibly the least contentious statement ever said ever. I don't think we're in disagreement there, but I'll be honest, I don't actually know the economic platform that most people in our server follow, so I don't know what most of them
Mostly,
advocate for.
we're mostly capitalist,
Uh,
basically. At least that's from what I get.
I'd have to look around for that, but I wouldn't doubt it. Usually a lot of pretty moderate conservatives with pretty capitalistic attitudes.
Yeah, we
Or
have some
cap-
left leaning people. We're not just all right wingers or conservatives.
well, are you like a capitalist, like laissez-faire capitalist, or more of a populist? Like, what's
I'm
your
more of a mixed markets.
that's reasonable, but I mean, like, go in depth. Like, how would you see, in your ideal America, like, what's the ideal economic policy? I know that sounds really vague, but answer it the best way you possibly can.
Okay. Shit, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't thought this out that much.
Oh,
So, okay, what do you want to know in terms of like taxes or whatnot?
and let's go off with the basics. Things like taxation, minimum wage, any changes to the how businesses are run, how much power should the government have in the economy,
Yeah.
etc.
So for basics on how businesses are run, um, my stance against monopolies is kind of hard. Is rather a bit harsh. Basically, so my view of it is that monopolies, if you want a free market, then monopolies can't exist. I mean, sure, monopolies are still gonna exist, but like when they do, you gotta stamp them out. So
See,
one of the measures that would be taken is the modernization of antitrust laws, and slowly and filling in some loopholes, some major loopholes, especially when it comes to taxes.
hmm, I see.
So on how businesses are run, really, I would allow if you're not doing like if you're not doing unsafe practices, or if you're following safety regulations, then you're still good. Then you can run your business. For small businesses, there would be small businesses. Oof, shit, I haven't thought that out. Okay,
I understand.
but yeah, they're just as long as they abide by safety regulations and don't you know do unsafe practices or threaten the rights of other people or companies, then they would be allowed to participate in the economy. um,
Understand.
for taxes, we
I mean, no disrespect, but are you more of a social policies kind of guy? I don't, because you are the president of, like, kind of, I wouldn't say movement because it's not a movement, but like community. Isn't it odd that you don't have a set belief system, or is that
when it
intentional?
comes to economics, I don't know much of economics.
Okay, I didn't mean to accuse. I just wanted to
So
immediately assume that, like,
I know what I know what my political system, I know that. I know social policies, but in terms of economics, no.
okay, I just needed to make sure. I
So some things
apologize.
I'm still stuck on and trying to
That's
figure
fair.
out.
But I guess in terms of social policies, how would you describe your ideal? So, because you can't. I get not having an opinion on economics. My strong suit is things like economics and governance. You can't force yourself to care about some things, and if you're not sure about some things, don't feel bad about it.
Hmm.
But what is your ideal, like, I guess, social policies? Are you kind of like a conservative or moderate or just
I
kind of
I
extreme?
I am a moderate. In some senses, I do lean on some things. I do lean progressive, like LGBT issues.
I see. I'm trying to think of any contentious issues I could bring up.
Hmm. What is he thinking about?
Better yet, what do you think about? Uh, I was gonna ask minimum wage because I
Minimum
know you're not
wage.
sure.
Okay. I believe that there, yes, there has to be a I do believe there has to be a set minimum wage in place as like the as like the minimum required that you must pay, workers. If you're fixed salary, if you were a if you were a contractor or whatever, I don't know how that'd work. I assume you'd just be, you know, instead of be getting paid hourly, you'd be getting paid weekly and monthly. And so, if it was hourly, that'd be getting transferred over to weekly and monthly.
I I suppose that's reasonable. I am opposed to having a minimum wage at all. Um, I think minimum wage laws should be abolished. But generally, I don't like saying that because generally people think of like a corporate hellhole whenever they hear that. And honestly, you're justified in thinking that because that's what I thought of when I first heard of that being proposed.
I think if you don't take the right steps, it may end up as corporate hellhole.
Yeah, obviously, but a lot of people do have content like have issues with the idea of having no minimum wage, primarily because they think we should increase it because everything's so fucking expensive. But everything's expensive not because our wages are low, but it's because everything's fucking expensive. I agree that our wages haven't really been keeping up with inflation. Agree, I agree with that. But I'm saying like shit's too fucking expensive, which is kind of a big problem as is.
Yeah.
Um, Generally, the only thing minimum wage has done has just been serving as a way to price out, um, you know, other people, which I think it's better that everybody gets a job just to begin with. Because, if you have higher minimum wage, jobs are obviously going to be less likely to hire as many people. That's just, basic. Like, obviously, if labor is more expensive, you're going to have less of it, or ideally have less of it. So, maybe with no minimum wage, businesses will be a little bit more, open to hiring more people.
Yeah, and
Um,
I feel like if you were to go with, I feel like there should be more benefits substituted.
well, yeah, I agree. I think workers should definitely be given more representation. Like, I think every business over a certain size, workers should be allowed to at least elect 40% of the board of directors. And not only that, they should be given like a share of the profits. So not only alongside their wages, but they should be given like a share of the profits that the business produces. Which I think will be a pretty good incentive because that means the harder you work, the more successful the business is, therefore more money for you.
Mm-hmm. And that also means more people are willing to work because they can actually, make money.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm also in favor of because I'm a pretty big Keynesian. I'm really big on having more money in the system. So things like universal basic income, other shit like that. Basically, just whatever gets money flowing in the economy and having more money in people's pockets, I'm always going to back.
Hmm. What would you as my question? What would you say you are economically?
If you've read any of my writing that I've done, I'm pretty close to just what you would call like a neo-corporatist. Obviously, I'm not a corporatist to a T, but that is pretty much a good deal of my economic policy is um, corporatist economics. Um, though generally it's based off Catholic, social teachings, not really, fascism. Uh, which I like to make a distinction because unfortunately, when people think of corporatism, they think of, you know, Italy
They
and
think of
Spain.
cyberpunk.
Well, that's kind of a misconception because they think that's a corporatocracy, and
Mm-hmm.
people like to use corporatocracy and corporatism sort of interchangeably. And
Look who's here.
oh, Brendan, get your ass in
50,
here, boy.
50 minutes late.
I know, damn. We're out here talking about economics, bro. Get your ass in here. You're missing out.
We already got the 3 topics already, bro. What do you mean?
Dumbass.
Ain't no way.
Ain't no way, man. But actually, like, legitimately, you will never have to read it, but I always do, propose that people just read my little document if they actually do want to understand anything I believe, because I do understand that I'm prone to word salad, and I'm prone to just saying shit to the point where nobody knows what I'm believing. So I have a little thing where I just give people when I say like, "Oh, you have no idea what I believe here." Uh,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's a little nice bit of off topic. Currently at
uh,
52 minutes now. I'm not sure how long I want to do this, but I guess
Well,
fuck it. We'll
I
go
forgot
anyway.
about this and also my phone was charging.
well, I mean, like if you want, we could like, because it is 50 minutes, and nobody's gonna sit through more than 50 minutes of
And
something.
plus I was playing the new Modern Warfare 3.
So I
Oh,
mean, like you
nice.
can you
I,
can possibly end this and start another one.
I mean, I possibly. I want to go through the George Santos bribery thing and Jeff Jackson.
Oh no. Don't if you're saying like restart and then don't restart, it's fine.
Yeah,
It's on me. I can always
we
blame them.
press on with or without you.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying if that's what you said, I would like to so like possibly saying
Nah,
like
it's
as in
all
possibly
good. It's all
restart. I don't
good.
want you to restart, you know?
Yeah, it's all good. So, anyways, back on the topic, the George Santos bribery. If you don't know, George Santos has been found of misuse of campaign funds and taking bribes from other people. There were stashes of gold and other things that that incriminate him at his home in New Jersey, and he was recently there's a vote to kick him out of Congress, which failed because people voted to not kick him out, which I don't know who whichever politician did vote to keep him in Congress is gay and cringe. But yeah, what are y'all thoughts on it?
I really don't
There's
have
good
much to
points
say
on
because
both
I haven't
sides.
haven't really been caught up. I haven't been caught up with a lot of much only political like political wise, news wise, but only except for like exceptions of the Hamas and Israel war. Just some of the things that have been happening lately, major big things. Not a lot of the things happening, except for the Hamas and Israel war.
Yeah.
So I ran out to say,
It's nothing new. I mean,
Yeah, it's just
I
politicians being politicians.
yeah, I mean that's not really like anything worth discussing for the simple fact that like, oh wow, a politician did something corrupt. Who would have supposed? Now it'd be pretty big if it was like, someone like Bernie Sanders, just, people who generally claim to be not politicians as politicians, but
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, George Santos is also like known for being a huge conman. Fakes his name, fakes being a Holocaust, being descendant of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, no, didn't he claim to be Jewish? I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny as hell, actually. No,
He,
no, no, I'm not Jewish. I'm Jewish. And I
bro.
thought that bro literally did a dad joke on America.
How is he still in Congress, dude? Like, what the fuck?
It doesn't help that he has like the most punchable face in the world. Like he
And
looks like,
he has the most feminine voice.
he looks like someone I'd see in like the halls and something. I'd like stuff him against a locker and ask for his lunch money and shit. Like obviously that's joking, but I'm just saying like, it's not really a critique of his character. I just want to
Yeah,
announce that I want to punch him.
nah, cause if you were to hear his voice and not see his face, you'd think he was James Charles. You think he was James Charles himself because that's how his voice is. That's what he sounds like to me. Yo, Connor, you there?
Yeah, sorry. I'm quite literally tweaking at the moment.
Oh,
My chair broke, and I'm trying to like hide how pissed off I am, so the podcast doesn't just hear me screaming and crying and punching my camera screen.
yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe.
I just for those curious, I am tweaking, and I'm quite pissed off. And I'm not buying a new chair. I'm just gonna get some fucking like I'll put like an
Gonna
Allen
get
wrench
duct
right
tape.
here. Yeah, duct tape. Like damn, like I'm
Duct tape and
oh
super glue.
yeah. I mean, but then like I'm just gonna like be leaning back and I'm gonna bust my ass like mid podcast, and like then I'm never gonna recover from it.
You're just gonna scream the N word while you're at it.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm gonna completely ruin my life because of all the horrible things I'll say and retaliation to my chair fucking me over. You don't want that happening.
No. Yeah. In all honesty, George Santos, that guy's weird, and I don't see him, completing the rest of his term.
Well, I mean, virtually any politician, I do question like why they're there. But one politician I do, uh, I know this obviously like not liking Joe Biden is a really big like no shit, especially for you. But I have to always ask like how did he get elected to begin with? Because you got to think like not even Democrats were really a big fan of him.
I think
Uh,
it wasn't the Democrats themselves, more so it was a combination of the DNC elites wanting him. Like, they were picking him because he wasn't Bernie Sanders, wasn't any of the other candidates. And I think people voted for him. People voted for him. Alright, look, you ask people. They say they voted Biden. You ask them why they voted for Biden. and then you see Trump on the Republican side. And that's why most people voted for Biden.
Is
Sure,
because
he may have been a
wasn't Trump.
decrepit old man, but to them, he wasn't Trump.
I guess I'm just saying, like, DNC elite aside, like, it's just always been curious because he's not charismatic. Like, he's not charismatic at all. Same thing with DeSantis versus Trump is DeSantis isn't funny. He's not charismatic. I don't like Trump, but I'm just saying, like, there's we have a unfortunate, like, I think we're at the age of history where just all politicians are boring now. I'm sorry that that's a tangent. I just really wanted to say that. Like, every
No, I
politician is
agree
boring.
with you there.
I
Politicians
won't.
ain't like Teddy Roosevelt,
I
where
know. Like,
you can get shot during like the first section of your 90-minute speech and then just continue for the rest of the speech.
like, I want to see motherfucking, like, politicians pull up in, like, full military uniforms and shit, screaming on the mic. Like, I'm bored.
Nah, you don't got like an extreme right-wing politician, running across the entire country because he supposedly hates whatever minority group he can use as a scapegoat, or just Democrats.
I see. But if you're okay with it, I may have to actually leave this podcast, which I'll leave you to talking because I gotta go.
Yeah, I guess I might end it off here.
All right. Well, I was gonna let y'all too because I've been holding the floor for possibly way more than both y'all combined.
Yeah.
Supposed to validate me, not agree with me.
My fault, man. Alright. It was nice
When I
having you
say I'm a
on.
nice, thank you. But when I say I'm annoying, you're not supposed to be like, yeah. You're supposed to say like, no, Connor, you're amazing and
No,
perfect, and I
Connor.
love you. The fuck is wrong with you?
I didn't realize what you said.
I'm fucking with you, man. But bye. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice having you on, Connor. Alright. Man. Anyways, I think I'm gonna just end it with that. Sorry we didn't get the Jeff Jackson part. I guess we'll do it next episode. Um, but yeah, so far, this was a really good comeback episode. I'm liking it. And well, sorry for not giving you a, a lot of time to talk, Brendan, but
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, good podcast. I'll be uploading this tomorrow, Saturday. But yeah, I'll see y'all all later. Good night, sleep tight. Don't let the big buds bite, and don't let the feds have you on watch. Joshua Sheffield with Brendan. Excuse me, and we're signing out. Goodbye.
Peace.